All right, hello. Bit of a different video today. This is a product review, and the product is the AKK Alpha 10, which was sent to me by AKK for review. And I haven't paid, and I haven't been paid to review this, so we'll see how it goes. And thank you to AKK for sending it out. So this is the Alpha 10. This is the sort of overview of it. It's massive. It's like the size of two 30 by 30 flight stacks next to each other. And then it's got the antenna sticking out, obviously. It's easy to operate. You can just use the button. So I didn't hook up my smart audio because that would have been, the way I've got my smart audio done is a bit non-conventional. It would have been a bit awkward, especially with no benefit given the buttons makes it so easy. It actually has a high power requirement of the quad. So it will draw a lot of power. And I actually tripped my smoke stopper, gave me a panic, but a lot of testing and validation, and I tried it without putting smoke stopper on, powers up fine. So it does just draw a lot of power, enough to trip a smoke stopper. It is powerful, and I could tell when I was testing that it's got significantly more power than the Unify because I can fly behind things. So my testing method was to fly behind rocks and behind like quarry outcropping rather than to try and take it for distance because I wouldn't be able to send it far enough to outrange the video transmitter, I don't think. But you can see from the footage that the quality of the video is actually quite low. So I'm testing it versus a 5-inch with a brush tank solo and a stubby antenna, which is obviously always going to be slightly worse than a normal antenna, but just sending it behind the rock where I would normally fly and testing between the two. And you can see that the clarity in video between the two is considerably different, even though I still get more of an image when I'm behind the rock. The clarity, even in the open and the clear, is worse. So I emailed AKK and asked them if they had any ideas if it was what was going on, if it was faulty or if there's something I'm doing wrong. And in the meantime, I tried a few different things to try and fix it. I tried rerouting the wires. I tried changing the props because in the past had an issue where a certain set of props gave me some weird power ripple and it caused a little bit of video interference. Nothing as severe as this, but I did want to just check. Then I put a bigger fat boy 1500 microfarad capacitor on it and it made no odds. None of these things made any changes. And then AKK said, try putting an inductor on there. And they told me what type of inductor to get. So I went and bought a 10 pack off eBay for like £2 because they're only cheap. Put that on. No difference whatsoever. And I thought, well, maybe it's because it's pulling directly from the battery because the power requirements are really high. It's 12 to 28 volts and it has two of those. So you probably need to be giving it more than 12 volts, which from the battery I have would be more like 14 or something like that because it's a 4S. So plug in the Unify directly into the battery the same way as the Alpha 10, no problem. It just flies perfectly fine. It looks perfectly fine, no issue. So it does point to me towards something being wrong with the Alpha 10. So I thought, well, I'm sure I watched videos before this, and the video was good from the Alpha 10. I don't remember seeing any, and thinking to myself, oh, that looks like really bad video. So I was like, well, I'll go and look on YouTube then and find the videos that I must have watched. And all of them, I realize now, we're testing either on the bench and then using the little Immersion RC power thing to validate the power and saying this is the product and doing an overview of how it works and what it's for. Fine. And then the other one is people were mounting it into cars, and I think that's because you can get significantly further in a car and you're close to the ground, so it makes the video worse, and there's less risk to the RC vehicle because it's not flying and it's not going off somewhere behind a cliff like I was. I mean, granted, it was only a 5-minute walk to the cliff, but you're not really risking anything there to test this claim with a physical thing. And then the other people was walking it round a wood trail and being like, and then DVRing from a distant location. So you can see how bad the video gets as they go through the woods, but you don't have to risk taking your quad through all the woods and losing it. So I did find one guy who was flying it on a quad and he had it on a 4-inch, and it made me think the way that his video recording was, he didn't have any OSD, which makes me think he wasn't pulling power from the same battery as the quad was flying on, which is one way I could see to isolate. If you isolate the VTX from the quad, obviously it's not going to be interfered with as much by anything drawing power from the same battery. So I have a suspicion that that's what he might have done. And mainly, I would think, because it's going to be really difficult to get a 4-inch stack that can power it. So I don't really think anyone's being disingenuous with the coverage. I think people are just solving the problem of having a big, hefty thing that they need to do something really, what would usually be risky or whatever with. And they're solving it, and that's causing this element of the thing to be overlooked, essentially. And so, because I powered it directly from the quad, it seems like how I would expect it to work, basically how I would want it to work. I had this experience of it. long term, I do want to test it on a wing because I think it will suit being on a wing. There's less power interference on a wing because of only having one motor, and a wing has a lot more like flight time, and it's a lot more efficient with the battery. So in the long term, I will have a video at some point putting it into a wing. That is on the cards. Maybe it's getting a bit late in the season now because it's been stormy and wet for the last like 2 or 3 days here, but I'm sure we'll find a day before long to get a quick trip out. So yeah, to wrap up, can I recommend it? Not for my setup basically, but it might be good for other things. But I haven't had that experience. Essentially, I've had the experience of quite poor video quality. Obviously powerful, but coming at a cost basically. I have had video transmitters with this kind of thing in the past, but I just didn't know enough at the time to know what was causing it and couldn't fix it, and I've just since stopped using them. So I've never actually fixed this issue before on any other video transmitter. I've just gone and got a different video transmitter and it's worked. And since I've been using Rush Tank Solos, I've had no issues whatsoever. And I do have a Unify in the 7-inch normally, and that's never had an issue either. So I think for something going ultra long range, I don't know if this is the best option, just because if it's going to give you poor video quality like this, then you're going to want a clearer video feed so that you can sort of tell when the video loss is due to range and when, what's happening. So yeah, that's my sort of thoughts on it. And again, big shout out to AKK for sending it and for not trying to basically have any control over what I'm saying on the review. Basically, they've not seen this before it's gone out. I'll link it to them when I post it. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and click a button, probably the red one or any of the other buttons that are on the YouTube like buttons.